Hey everybody, good afternoon, and I would like to welcome you to this afternoon's panel, where we will be talking about issues related to AI, blockchain, and how they are related to journalism. I'm Łukasz, I'm the moderator, and I'm the only person standing between you and lunch today, so we'll try to keep this panel as well timed as possible. We would also, of course, like to thank the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, which is kindly hosting this panel. Without further ado, let me very quickly introduce the panelists. First is Henrik. Henrik has been with ARIJ for 10 years. He keeps up coming up with silly ideas for this decade. Those are his words, not mine. And, also in his words, not mine, he's going to be presenting another one of those silly ideas today. He's a veteran journalist and a documentary producer. Then afterwards, I'm very proud to be introducing Vivian as well. Vivian has had a very long career in journalism. She's held executive positions with CNN, the New York Times, the US National Public Radio, Twitter, and other places. And now she's heading up the Civil Foundation, which supports newsrooms around the world and is built on blockchain technology. Finally, I'm sure that we all have one of those friends who's co-founded lots and lots of regional startups over the past 12 years or so. Well, Ali is our friend on this panel. He's the editor-in-chief and digital manager of the NBC Group in Lebanon. He has huge experience in business and journalism, and he has indeed co-founded numerous startups across the whole region over the past 12 years or so. And he's going to be talking a bit about a new initiative he's co-founded as well, where he's merging AI and blockchain to talk about educational innovation. So without further ado, thank you so much for coming. And Ali, the floor is up to you.
Thank you, Lucas. So before we start talking about blockchain and artificial intelligence and how these two technologies can change our work as a journalist and our life as a human, I want to give a small introduction for both technologies. So blockchain is distributed, decentralized database. It allows peer-to-peer interaction and transactions without the need of, that's why my people are on the first, without the need of the intermediate. And it guarantees that this transaction or interaction can happen, can be secured, safe, and recorded, but not on one central server instead of all the computers in the system. While AI is a bit different, AI is artificial intelligence. It's the ability of machines to think and learn. The concept behind AI is to allow the machines think, act, and learn like a human. The world now is all going towards AI, and AI is becoming one of the most useful tools in the newsrooms around the world. And it's not science fiction anymore, it's reality. And there's a lot of examples that we can mention today about the integration of AI in the newsrooms. But for journalists, and this is one of the questions that all the journalists are asking, what can AI or blockchain do for us? For journalists, it can go from identifying trending topics, verifying if these topics are newsworthy, verifying the content, especially if it's user-generated content, analyzing big sets of data, spotting patterns, helping in data mining, helping in editorial planning, marketing, personalization of content distribution, and so on. And this opens a huge and global discussion about the future of journalism and whether AI and algorithm will replace journalists in the newsrooms, since they can do almost everything. And this is what I'm interested and looking forward to discuss with the panelists today. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the introduction. And Vivian, if you could talk very briefly about the foundation as well.
Yeah, so hi everybody. Thank you, Ali, for that very helpful setup about some of the new technologies that are becoming more and more an important part of every aspect of our lives. And so the question is then, how can we harness the power of AI and, in my case, the power of blockchain to support what we do, which is journalism. So my project is called Civil. Can we tee up the first slide, please? So Civil is the name of my organization. And we start with this premise, which is something that everybody in this room knows all too well, which is journalism is in crisis. More importantly, the people that benefit from journalism are not getting the information they need to be participants in society. As we know, public trust is at an all-time low around the world, failing press freedom, business models are collapsing, and more we are beholden to platforms like Facebook or others, and to special interests. So we start with this premise, which is this is the set of problems we're facing. What's a way that we can get at some solution? So what if journalism was built on, I'm going to stand up, forgive me. Actually, I can't do that or you won't be able to hear me, right? So, sorry. All right, now it's not. There we go. Okay. So what if journalism was built on restoring trust and direct reader support, not going through a third party? What if editorial decisions were independent from, that if a newsroom completely controlled all their editorial decisions? What if our coverage, the actual output of our journalism, was resistant to censorship and beyond the reach of governments, the powerful, the rich, or any other master? So that's why we created Civil. Civil is a community-owned network of newsrooms that are committed to ethical journalism and held accountable by everyday citizens and the independent journalists who serve them. This is what Civil is. And when we're talking about newsrooms committed to ethical journalism, I think that counts probably everybody in this room. What we are creating is a network where all of these news organizations can be part of a community where they can control their own destiny. Now you'll notice that I did not use the B word in my description of what Civil is, but the fact is, Civil is built on blockchain. We are not a blockchain company looking for something to do. We're a journalism organization that has found a very supportive environment and platform on blockchain. So Civil uses the technology, Civil is the technology that undergirds the entire platform. Blockchain allows news organizations, if they want to publish stories to the blockchain, which means that they will always be there. They can't be taken away. They can be corrected, but they can't be taken away. And it also provides a mechanism for this network to be governed in the form, and this is where we get into, I'm not going to get into too much detail about crypto economics, but the notion of tokens, cryptocurrencies, is a really handy way for the community and the public and the newsrooms to support this platform. We are launching next month. We already have 100 journalists on board. We just started with a small group of newsrooms to test it out. It's been very, very successful so far. And now we're in a position where we are now building out our community to bring on hundreds and hundreds of newsrooms to build this network so that we can scale it, so that news organizations can get the support they need. So why Civil? What does Civil do for newsrooms? It connects you to a global community of news organizations where you can share information and support each other, particularly small news organizations who may feel very isolated anywhere in the world. It provides access to custom publishing tools so that journalists, again, can have their identity attached to their story. Even if their identity needs to be anonymous, at least it is an identity that travels with you that can be attached to your story, and as well as permanently archiving your content to the blockchain where it can't be taken down. Civil provides access to perks and benefits from vendors that we have negotiated rates so that each of the newsrooms can get cost savings tool and services in order to run their business, and access to expanded revenue opportunities. Again, we don't have time to go into this too much right now. We can possibly talk about it in the Q&A, but the notion of using tokens unlocks a lot of revenue potential for news organizations in addition to the revenue, whatever revenue schemes you're pursuing today. So that's really all I have. We'll get more into questions. We want every news organization to join us. I'm happy to explain more. And this is how you can reach me.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Vivian. And if we could just jump to the second slide deck, and if you, Henrik, could present your project as well, please.
Voila. Oops.
Okay. Thank you. I'll try to do it standing also.
Yeah, I know. You're going to take your headsets off.
And I'll take, yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I work for IMS, for International Media Support, as many of you know, as an advisor. And you have never seen me as a tech nerd, and you'll not see that today either, I'm sorry. I believe in content as king, but we need the technology to help getting that content out. And that is what our project, MediaBridge.org, is about. The problem as it is now, this is a bridge between international media and you working in the field in conflict countries. We are working in 40 conflict countries. I would say that ARIJ is the foremost organization in actually providing connections to international media also, and really be the help for local media. And this is, you could say, using the ARIJ model in a more technical way. So it should enable you as local journalists to reach international media. For the international media, it will be more cheap. It will also help them compared to what they're doing now, where we call it parachute correspondents, international correspondents, to come here and normally getting their whole story through the cab driver taking them from the airport to their hotel and then going back again. This is, and if we're lucky, the local journalist will be the fixer. This is to put the local journalist in the center. The idea, we have tried to, well, I'm sure you cannot read that unless you have very good eyes. So this is an app that we have only in a paper form now, but will be called MediaBridge. The thing is that each journalist will have their own personal site here, and there will be a virtual newsroom with an international media. It will be with online courses. Today, later, we'll be talking about the online course we are doing now for journalists in hard-to-reach countries like Syria and Yemen and Gaza. For this, they will actually be able to reach with their stories to the international media and talk with the editors beforehand about what are the needs from the internationals. And furthermore, and this is where the blockchain comes in, we will have it so the metadata, you can go in and check verification on where, for instance, the videos are coming from. And then there will be a personal profile. So you will have, it will work a little bit, we call it the Uber system. That means that you'll actually get a rating for the partner you work with in the international media, and you can rate the international media also on how that experience have been for you. We will work with media houses. This is what IMS has made its specialty, so it will not be directly for individuals, but of course the media houses are connected to freelance journalists, and through that you reach that, but it will be, our partners are definitely the media houses. But I see a lot of cooperation possibilities with your initiative also, so looking forward to talk about that. But this is how it will look, and you'll have your personal input into this, stories that are in the making, where you can discuss that, or stories that are just going up, and it's all what you could call peer-to-peer. That means this is not for publication until the moment where you have put it in, and the fingerprint, the blockchain, will make the income go to you and to your media house.
Perfect. Thanks, Henrik. Sorry.
That's how it, no, that's just how it looks. And we have been given funding for the development by Google, and right now we have applied again for the production, and we'll see how it goes.
Perfect. Thanks so much for this introduction. Maybe if we could just, because I think that one of the things that we hear very often with things, whenever we hear the word blockchain or AI, very often it feels like a lot of those are solutions looking for a problem to solve rather than the other way around. And I know that you've already started to clearly identify sort of specific pain points that you'd like to solve. But maybe it would be best if we could be as explicit about it as possible. So sort of, what are the main problems? What are the main pain points? What are sort of the main issues in journalism that you feel that could be solved right now with blockchain and AI? Like, what's the explicit pain point we're looking for?
Okay, so as we were saying at the beginning, AI and blockchain are two different technologies, and each one of them serve a different kind of or solve a different kind of problems. For blockchain, mainly it's security, transparency, and a lot of things that Henrik was talking about. AI mainly for increasing the productivity, support the journalists in their work, and freeing some of their time and doing the routine, repetitive kind of work, and enables them and enhance their work, especially investigative journalism and people who work in data and big set of data. So and also helping them to report directly on news. Some of the examples that we have now internationally is News Tracer by Reuters. They have an algorithm that can report, it can analyze the tweets on the feed in the real time. So they were able to report on the bombing in Aleppo and in Nice 8 to 15 minutes before all the other media. This algorithm allowed them to report on any kind of news up to 60 minutes before anyone else. Other examples that happening in the media is another algorithm called Radar, Reporters and Data and Robots. It's by UK news agency and press association. They're aiming to publish more than or around 30,000 articles by January 2019, and this is not a good news. And a lot of other examples in this field. That's it. So it's helping the journalism do their work, taking the headache from them, and especially in the repetitive kind of tasks, and letting them do the creative and innovative side of their job.
Perfect. Thanks so much. What do you think, Irene?
So I've been in journalism for over 30 years, and this is far and away the most difficult environment that I've ever experienced. And if you look across the world,
I think that the problems that we're facing, which gets to the problems we're trying to solve, really fall into two categories. One is sustainability. It's more and more difficult for news organizations to support themselves, to have the resources and the funds they need in order to do their important work. There's a lot of reasons for this, including so much of the money being siphoned off to the platforms and just finding other business models to replace the decline in advertising, and in the case of newspapers, the decline of subscription revenue. The second crisis I would broadly categorize as trust, declining trust in the media, and a more and more difficult environment around the world for news organizations to operate. I think we certainly see quite a bit of that in this part of the world. It's becoming more and more difficult, frankly. I'm a little worried about how things are going where I live in the United States, quite frankly. So these twin crises of trust and sustainability. There is no one solution, and I'm certainly not suggesting that anything I or anybody's doing could be the singular solution. But we need to get at a set of solutions, and those are the problems we're trying to contribute to, and we think blockchain has some answers here. So that's what we're trying to solve for, trying to get at solutions with civil trust, in the sense that because of the governance of our platform, only news organizations that meet a certain threshold of ethical practice, again, I'm sure most everybody in this room meets those standards, can stay on the platform, and sustainability, because we are opening up new ways for audiences to discover news organizations around the world, particularly small news organizations, and opening up the possibility of brand new forms of revenue, specifically micropayments or microtipping, which is very difficult in a so-called fiat currency world because transaction fees are very high, but in a cryptocurrency world can really become unlocked, and we think potentially quite powerful. So again, trust and sustainability are really the problems we're trying to solve.
Perfect, thanks so much. And yourself, Henrik, what would you identify as the main pain points?
Yeah, and again, this is very much in line with what Lillian was saying. I would say trust and verification, which is deeply interlinked. The problem now, if you want to reach international media, is how can we be sure? How can we be sure that this footage is actually taken where you say it's taken, that it's taken at the time where you took it, so they rather not take it? And especially with the trolls everywhere, there is a huge problem there. We work together with an NGO called ARIJ18, and I don't know if Rabi is here. Anyway, this is, we hope, and again using the technology, and the blockchain technology is something that will get us over that problem. They have developed an app. It's unfortunately only working with the Google, the Android format. But it's an app that if you film through that app, and I know that Android is the most used in this region, it will actually immediately take the geodata down. So that's the proof. The second thing that happens, and that this is to help with safety, is that the moment you get to a place where there's 3G or there's Wi-Fi, it will be uploaded to a server, it will be encrypted, and that means that you cannot be taking for carrying that footage, which we have had a lot of examples of, and then it will go straight to the newsroom. So that means that it can actually be verified. That is where I really see technology can be used and where we need it.
No, thanks a lot. That's a really, really good point, and I'd love to see the potential of this. There's a lot to talk about with regards to deep fakes and verification in an era of Photoshop and deep fakes as well. So that's a really good point. I mean, if we could just slightly pivot to another level, namely to the level of revenue, okay? Because I think that media revenue has been a huge, huge subject. In fact, recently the CEO of BuzzFeed was even saying that he's considering a merger with all of the other big internet content publishers in order to have more leverage in conversations with platforms. So sort of, first of all, revenue, but secondly, revenue when talking about negotiations with platforms has become a really, really big thing. And I think that a lot of people are starting to look at blockchain as a huge alternative. Vivian, I know that you already mentioned that there's some sort of potential for micropayments, but Ali and Vivian and Henrik, like, how do you feel that blockchain has a deep potential to transform the way we genuinely finance journalism, the way we do revenue, advertising, subscriptions, everything?
In terms of sustainability and business models and revenue streams, of course, blockchain is enabling another type of business models, and this is what civil is based about. But let me talk about another thing. Of course, blockchain can be an alternative for the advertising business model that is falling in the world, but it also can be a saver for this model. When we talk advertising and direct or programmatic advertising, especially programmatic in the digital world, the path between advertisers and publishers is too long. So the money of the advertisers, and this is one of the issues, that because there is more spending in the advertising year by year, and there is falling in business model. So the thing is, the path is too long. Between the advertisers and the publisher, there is the media ad agency, trading desk, supply side platform, ad exchange platform, demand side platform, publisher, and then the audience. 55% of the advertising money is spent on commissions between the players and not the platforms. So between the media agency and the demand side platform, these 5 players are taking 55% of the advertising money. Blockchain will allow, and there is also a lack of transparency, lack of reporting. Big brands and advertisers are, and this we see it in many reports this year and last year, about brands complaining for their ads being displayed next to racist videos on certain platforms. So they don't know, they spend money and they don't know where this money is going, especially that 55% of this money is spending on we call it non-working advertising spending. So blockchain will allow the peer-to-peer interaction and transaction. It will allow the advertiser to talk directly to the publisher, and the publisher will be more transparent in reporting and in how they are spending the money. And we're bringing back the 55% of the advertising money to be spent on ads. So this is one of the solution. This is one of the practices for blockchain, not as an alternative for advertising, but as a saver for advertising model.
Wow, no, that's absolutely, like, I did not know the 55% figure. That's very, very high. That 55% of ad money goes to middle ground sort of companies rather than the publisher. That's huge.
The number that I've heard is actually 70% is the number.
Oh,
for,
wow.
Yeah. Either way, it's bad.
Yes. So 55 to 70%. That's huge. Anyway, Vivian, you were also talking about microtransactions being a potential future for journalism. Yes.
Yes. And Ali makes a very good point about advertising. I'd only add one other thing to your very good explanation. Is the other benefit is, when you talk about, we talk about ad safety for brands, which is more and more important, but also that publishers and actually the users themselves, the audience themselves, having more control over their own data. When we're on the platforms, the platforms, of course, are monetizing our user behavior. But in a blockchain environment, the publisher and the end user can have more control over their own data, and this can be a benefit in terms of being able to share that data, to control, be able to very selectively share that data to see the ads that you want to see. But yes, we're excited about the idea of micro-tipping and micro-payment. I'm not suggesting that this is going to be, save journalism. God knows, I'm not suggesting that by a long shot. But there is, I think, a behavior, a consumer behavior that is waiting to be unlocked, which is very small payments, which at scale can be quite meaningful and are based basically on the same concept as in a store as an impulse buy. So imagine as you go down your, whatever your platform of choice is, if you're looking at your Twitter timeline or you're looking at a Facebook feed and you go down and you look at pictures and you click like or share or, fave or whatever, whatever the platform is using. Imagine that same behavior, if you're reading an article, can be used to say, that's really cool. Here is, an eighth of a token. In our case, a civil token, or on another platform, it could be another token. It is an impulse. It is a small sort of nod to say, yes, I like what you're doing. It is not for the user a massive commitment to sign on to $60 a year or what have you, but it's a way to sort of believe that there is a behavior there that will become enabled once those kind of transactions are possible. And like I said, they're not possible today because the transaction fees, if you're using a credit card, are too onerous. And I know there's been many experiments around, creating Blendle and others around creating sort of a debit program, but even that has quite a bit of friction. And once you're in a cryptocurrency environment, once you're in, there is no middleman. It's, a piece of cryptocurrency is divisible by infinity. And it's a peer-to-peer transaction. So we think there's something quite interesting there, but again, I think also the advertising potential as well.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Henrik?
And again, I agree completely about the
We need to
wonders
disagree
here.
about something.
Yeah, we need some disagreement on something. I hope we'll get there.
Don't worry,
But I'll just do this very brief because I think it's concrete. I'm carrying with me cash. I'm willing to say that here, a few $100. And that is to pay a Syrian journalist for something he did, because I'm not allowed to transfer money to him through the bank because of whitewashing laws and so on. But in the future, if this system is up working like you're telling, it will happen automatically. Plus the copyright, just to take another Syrian partner we had that did the footage, if you all remember, the little boy in the ambulance in Aleppo that became sort of iconic for the situation of Aleppo. The journalist and the company he was from got $0 for that, and it could not be traced. But all the AP, Reuters and so on went in and put it into their pool and then sold it as part of the subscription to the media. So that's where the money went. If we had a direct, which our systems are talking about, it will be immediately paid to the producer of this.
That's an excellent point.
Okay, so since we need to introduce something slightly controversial to make this panel a bit less, of a full agreement, we have around 19 minutes left, so this will be my final question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. But very quickly, I always felt that the killer, let's say, app, if you can call it such, of the blockchain and decentralized systems is not actually the technology, but the governance, okay? So there's been lots and lots of cryptocurrencies. One of the reasons why Bitcoin has succeeded has been because of the rules that it's implemented within itself. Similarly, Wikipedia has a huge, super complex governance structure which somehow works. Lots and lots of online forums go up, and lots of them fail, and they devolve into sort of arguments and discussions because they don't have governance. So I would love to have you disagree with me on governance, or at least have some sort of big discussion. But to what extent do you think that governance is sort of the main problem that we're dealing with?
Yeah.
Or do you think that it's something that will come automatically?
I'm not going to disagree with you because I actually think governance is central. Well, maybe my co-panelists will disagree. One of the things I haven't really talked about much that is absolutely central to what we're doing is the governance. So when you own a civil token, yes, that is a form of payment. You can use it as a payment to a news organization. But its main purpose is for governance. It is a voting mechanism. So when I talk about Civil being a network for ethical newsrooms, well, how does that network stay ethical? How does it stay free of bad actors? How does it stay free from, InfoWars or RT or, what have you? And that's where the governance comes in. We have something called the Civil Constitution, which lays out sort of a threshold of what is considered ethical behavior for a newsroom. If you read it, nothing in it will be unfamiliar, I think, to anybody in this room. But it is the means by which anyone that holds a token will hold the network of newsrooms accountable. And if their newsroom tries to come onto the platform, does not meet that threshold, then you can use these tokens to challenge that newsroom. You challenge that newsroom by saying that they don't comply with the Constitution. You explain it. That triggers a vote, and the community of token holders can vote that network off of the platform. So that governance is critical. So think about it. It's sort of like a Wikipedia in that sense, where you have a large number of eyes on the platform to make sure that troublemakers don't come in. Now, of course, we know that things can be gamed, so we have an increasing system of appeals just to make sure that somebody doesn't come in from the outside and try to control that voting for bad purposes. So we have we have sort of a court of appeals, we have a civil council of very respected journalists from around the world who are reviewing everything, but we have these kinds of checks and balances to try to keep the platform, just like Wikipedia sort of somehow works, it's going to be the same thing with Civil.
And I'm sorry, I also totally agree.
No.
So I'm not going there.
Yourself, do you disagree?
No, I do agree. I'm fine.
Somebody in the audience will disagree.
Okay, but we have around a quarter of an hour left, so it'd be great if we could open it up for questions very quickly. I know that Ali is still very, very keen to talk about whether or not AI will replace journalists. So if we're looking for at least a little bit of disagreement and controversy, I'm sure that this is one of the key questions that will fall. So does anyone have any question they want to open up the discussion with?
Hi, thank you all. This is a really very exciting look to the future. I would like to challenge you, though.
Excellent.
We all know that, especially after the Arab Spring, technology does not bring us freedom nor democracy anymore, that it doesn't. So there's a constant political and economic shaping of technology. So in light of the very restricting context in the region, how do you see that, you will not see government, filtering or controlling some of these technologies, and how can we really ensure both safety and rights and, ownership of content by journalists?
No,
Henrik,
but,
please.
yeah, like we always say, how do we answer? It's a very good question. I think there will be a constant battle about that. It's only 2 years ago where everyone said blockchain would be impossible to hack. Now we know some can hack it and are working on that. So you need to work on how do you then secure it from that. So I think it's about being constantly aware of it, and of course if it doesn't work in the long run, we'll have to find something else. But as it is now, I think it's by far much better than what we have today.
And I'll just add that obviously there's no technology solution to solve very human political problems. I certainly would never suggest it. On the other hand, what we're talking about are tools whereby journalists can both, if they need to, stay anonymous, but yet have their identity persistent. So it may be an anonymous journalist, but as they publish, their identity their anonymous identity will be attached to that content, and a way to publish content so that because of the distributed nature of blockchain, that content cannot be censored or taken down. In terms of how does this protect the individual lives and liberty of journalists, of course, we can help, blockchain can help with that kind of anonymity, but obviously I'm not by any means suggesting that's the solution to all of the challenges.
Okay, perfect. Frank?
Hi, thanks. I have a question for you, Vivian. I'm interested to know if anything's going to change at Civil, given the recent token sale and journalists coming out saying that they hadn't been paid. So
Yeah.
I'd be really interested to hear your reaction to all that.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad you asked, and I'm probably most people in the room don't know this, so I won't go into a great deal of detail. We did. We're a startup, and when you're a startup, you try things. Sometimes they don't work. You pivot. So we attempted to do a traditional sort of ICO token sale, and it's funny to talk about traditional. Use the word traditional in terms of blockchain because it's so new, but. The way a lot of blockchain companies have offered these tokens. It didn't work out, but the reason it didn't work out is we shouldn't have done it that way, quite honestly. We should have, we're the first blockchain-based platform that is appealing to consumers, not sort of what's called, in the blockchain world, cryptocurrency whales, people that are making big investments. We were not selling tokens saying, buy these tokens to make a lot of money. On the contrary, we were specifically trying to weed out anyone that thought they were going to make a lot of money from this currency because we want to use it for journalism, we want to use it for payments, we want to use it for governance. It is the opposite of a get-rich-quick scheme. If we wanted to do a get-rich-quick scheme, believe me, we wouldn't have been involved in journalism. So it was a little hard for people to really understand about these tokens. It was difficult to buy, so it didn't work out. So we've taken a step back. We're now relaunching. We're going to launch the platform very soon, in the very first part of 2019. We'll have a date to announce actually in the next couple of weeks. We will be again offering those tokens, but we're not going to do it in this soft caps, hard caps, all the traditional way. It'll just be available sort of as an e-commerce experience. The second question, so we're look for more information on that soon. We are 100% going forward. The second thing is there was a story, there was a disgruntled reporter who worked for one of the newsrooms, didn't work for Civil, but worked for one of the newsrooms on Civil. As I said, we've got 125 journalists who are part of Civil. One out of that 125 said that he felt that he was misled. He was paid with cash. We've given millions of dollars away to newsrooms. We also gave them tokens, so newsrooms could do whatever they want. They use those tokens, they use the cash to pay their journalists, of course. They also gave out tokens in a way that you might give out stock options. This one journalist felt that he had been misled to think that those tokens would be worth a lot of money. We never said that, but that's the story he went out with, and he quit, and so he made a little bit of noise, but his boss who made the deal with him has refuted it. The other 125 journalists have said we were never misled. So it's just one of those unfortunate stories that happens.
Hi, this is Ahmed Bader from Yemen. I wonder also, when you create this platform, which is very good and great, how this will make it very beneficial for Yemeni journalists, especially for the people who doesn't speak the language. Do you have any idea about how to connect, how to create a platform in Arabic, maybe? Because few of us who speaks languages in my country, most of them, they're excellent journalists, much, much better than us, but they don't speak the language. So do you have any connections? At the same time, I just want to understand exactly about the newsroom. Just to, is it like, what will be the connection between the journalists and the newsroom platform?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Go ahead and then
Okay. It's very important that this is not a public platform. This is for journalists, from journalist to journalist, and journalist to editor, and editor to editor.
Your platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll talk
Ours
about
is
yours
different.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. So this platform will only be, like you could call it, a marketplace. But a marketplace with a newsroom function. So let's say you have an editor from The Guardian, something has happened in the north of Yemen, and he's desperate for getting things. We know it's a black hole right now. Through this platform, he will get in contact with Yemen media, and then they will together create a story that he, through the blockchain, will pay for, and it will be verified. So that's basically how it is. And therefore, you can make it both in Arabic and in English. So you can go into it like that. And the plan is also to have at least per region one coordinator who is dedicated to make someone has also called it Tinder for journalists, like to create the connection and talk the language and then get the best product. Through that, you'll also get a mark on how well has this functioned from your end and from the other end. And slowly you'll build up some very, very good correspondence, you could call.
As for civil, we are launching with English and Spanish, but we want to quickly then move into other languages, so just bear with us, we will get there. As for the distinction, at least speaking for civil, of a journalist, our atomic unit, so to speak, is a newsroom, but a newsroom can be as few as one person or as large as, many, many thousands. So, but it's not about individual journalists, it's about sort of publications, so to speak, defined very broadly. Again, a publication can be one person or two people.
I just want to ask, Vivian, do you have any Arabic newsrooms because you were mentioning that there is 12 right now?
Yeah, so we're now, we started with 18 newsrooms. None of them are Arabic, but honestly, that's why I'm here, because we want to bring on, we're now in the process of building out the community. And just to be clear, we're any newsrooms that sign on, we're giving them, that's why I tried to get at my presentation. We're giving them tools for the community, we're giving them publishing tools, we're giving them these package of benefits, we're giving them tokens to get started. Our singular purpose, my singular purpose of the foundation, is to support newsrooms and bring on as many newsrooms as possible. So, yeah.
Okay, I've got bad news and good news. The bad news is there are free... Yes, everyone's looking at the watches, so you know what I'm going to talk about. The bad news is there are 3 minutes left in this panel. The good news is lunch is in 3 minutes. So does any human or robot in the audience have questions about AI maybe, so we can throw it off blockchain a bit? No? All blockchain questions?
Yeah.
Perfect. Please identify as human or robot.
I'm Ahmad Omar from ARIJ. I have a question for Vivian. From your experience, you have experience now with technology and with journalism. I'm concerned, how can you find the common ground between journalists and the tech guys? I can see in journalism we appreciate how technology can help in our profession and to take it to new levels. From the other side, from your experience, how do you see that?
Yeah. This has been my whole career. First of all, I should have said this at the beginning. I am not a technologist. I mean, the notion of describing me in any way as a technologist, I know you didn't, but is laughable. You would be shocked. But I feel like what I have dedicated the last 15 years of my career is, from a journalism perspective, is how can we harness technology in support of journalism. I did this at the New York Times, where we merged the digital newsroom when I was there and the newspaper newsroom, and brought the technologists into the newsroom. I did the same thing at NPR, at NBC. I went to work for Twitter because I wanted to bring the voice of the journalists into a technology company. And now the same thing at Civil, which is, do I fully understand blockchain? Absolutely not. If somebody really started to ask me any in-depth questions about blockchain in this panel, I would not be able to answer them. But I do feel like it's critical. Blockchain is with us, and it's going to be with us in a bigger and bigger way. And the reason I wanted to be part of Civil from the beginning is because I don't want to see happen in a blockchain, in a universe where blockchain is a bigger and bigger factor, to see what happened, say, when Facebook was first starting out, where there was sort of this notion of techno-utopia, and oh, if we just connect the whole world, everyone will be good, and the world will become a better place. I'm much too cynical. Again, I'm a journalist, so I'm much too cynical for that. I joined Civil because I want to be there at the beginning to make sure that blockchain can be harnessed to serve the information needs of communities and not to be gamed and another controlling factor. So this is a long-winded way for answer to your question, but it's critical that journalists understand enough about technology and important how it can be deployed to journalists to support our work.
I just want to add something. Moving forward, we will see more and more journalists working side by side with algorithms and machines in the newsrooms. And same as what happened when the digital and social media went up. Journalists, they need to learn more, they need to gain more skills and develop their skill set, and to integrate the digital, the technical aspect in their work and in their day-to-day tasks, because we're over the age where the journalists or content people say we're only content. We understand, the only thing we understand about is content. One of our experiences with the International Center for Journalists is we teach the journalists how to create their business models, how to develop technical solutions for their content, because now you cannot only write, you need to think about the story from all the aspects, and to be able to do this, you need to have an idea on how technology at least works.
I'd love to discuss this in a bit more depth, but I'm afraid that we're out of time. So just wanted to thank once again the Friedrich Ebert Foundation for hosting this panel. I'd like to thank all of you for being such awesome listeners and asking great questions. I'd like to thank all of you for being such great listeners. And one more question, yes? Okay, does everyone want to stay for one more question? Yes? This is cutting into lunch. Everyone's okay with this, yes? Okay, perfect. We'll cut into lunch with one more question.
شكرا. أود أن أتكلم باللغة العربية. أعتقد أن أنا ناهد بشطح من السعودية، ولدي مؤسسة لصناعة المحتوى الرقمي، ومهتمة جدا بالذكاء الاصطناعي في المحتوى. أتفق مع السيدة فيفيان بأنه ليس من الضروري عندما أكون صحفي أن أتقن التقنيات، لكنني أختلف في نقطة معينة. علينا كصحفيين أن نقرأ كثيرا عن الذكاء الاصطناعي وعن البلوك تشين لهدف واضح ومهم، وهو كيف أن نتعاون مع التقني. التقنيين لديهم الأدوات الكافية، ولكن نحن الصحفيين لدينا نقطة الإبداع في المحتوى. لذلك علينا أن نقرأ كثيرا عن هذه التقنيات، لا لنتقنها، ولكن لكي نوصل ما الذي نريده من تطبيقات الذكاء الاصطناعي، على سبيل المثال تعلم الآلة أو ال NLP. وشكرا لكم.
Yes, I completely agree. I didn't mean to imply that we should be ignorant about technology and the tools, but many of us are never going to be, understand at the depth the technologists. We need to find the common language. The whole point about bringing together technologists and journalists is so that they understand where each other is coming from, and we create common goals to collaborate. But yes, of course, I completely agree with you. We need to know as much as possible. I just was suggesting that not every journalist is going to be a hardcore technologist. I agree.
So we've broken all of the rules and run over time. Any more questions? Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks so much for coming, everybody. Once again, thank you to us, the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, for hosting us. And thank you, Ali, Vivian, and Henrique, for coming over today and taking the time. Thank you.